The legacy of James Bond. James Bond look back at the character, its origin, and the enduring mass appeal that has lasted for more than half a century. After a prolonged gap of 6 years, the words, "The name is Bond, James Bond" will echo in Indian cinema halls as the 25th offering in the James Bond franchise released on Thursday, titled No Time to Die. The film is the last outing of actor Daniel Craig as James Bond. The latest offering from the Bond franchise has been directed by Cary Fukanga, and the screenplay has been put together by Neil Purvis, Robert Waddy, and Fleabag fame Phoebe Waller-Bridge. The film, released globally, has earned universal good reviews, and many have called it the perfect goodbye by actor Daniel Craig to the world-famous character. Craig has often been praised for his raw, emotional portrayal of the peerless spy, adding layers and complexity that was missing in the earlier renditions of the character. We look back at the character, its origin, and the enduring mass appeal that has lasted for more than half a century. Humble beginnings. James Bond, today known as a spy, who works at MI6, the Secret Intelligence Service, and is popularly known by his code number 007 or 007, pronounced 007. But his origin story is not as glamorous as it sounds. The character of James Bond was created by writer Ian Fleming, who made James Bond as the central key figure of his works. Bond was rooted in all the experiences and the varied people that Fleming had encountered in the time he spent in the Naval Intelligence Division and 30 Assault Unit. Fleming at one point had said in an interview to the Times in 2008 that Bond was a compound of all secret agents and commando types one met during the war. James Bond, the name which today immediately conjures up an image of a slick, suave international spy who guzzles martinis, court women, and simultaneously foils an attempt of a coup in some foreign nation, is actually named after an American ornithologist who was an expert of birds native to the Caribbean. Fleming, too, was an avid bird watcher and even had a copy of the ornithologist book Birds of the West Indies. Later, in an interview to the New York Times in 1962, Fleming had explained that James Bond to him was the dullest name he had ever heard. "When I wrote the first one in 1953, I wanted Bond to be an extremely dull, uninteresting man to whom things happened. I wanted him to be a blunt instrument. When I was casting around for a name for my protagonist, I thought, my God, James Bond is the dullest name I have ever heard." Fleming incorporated many of his own personality traits and tweaks into Bond's, like the taste for scrambled eggs, his golf handicap, and his own brand of toiletries. Fleming wrote 12 spy novels starring Bond and 2 short stories. The first one was Casino Royale, which came out in 1953. After the death of Fleming in 1964, writers Kingsley Amis, Christopher Wood, John Gardner, Raymond Benson, Sebastian Faulks, and Jeffrey Dever wrote the Bond novels, immortalized on film. Apart from the books, James Bond has featured in TV adaptations, radio broadcast, comics, and films. While the other formats sure added to the popularity of the character, it was the films that have immortalized this slick spy for eternity. The first Bond film, Dr. No, appeared in 1968 too, and had actor Sean Connery playing the essential first Bond. Connery essayed the role for a total of 6 films. Actor George Lazenby too played the British spy for 1 film. On Her Majesty's Service, Roger Moore had been till date the longest serving Bond actor, having played James Bond in a total of 7 times. Timothy Dalton had 2 Bond films to his credit, The Living Daylights and The License to Kill. Pierce Brosnan gave 4 back-to-back Bonds, GoldenEye, Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, and Die Another Day. Daniel Craig stepped into the shoes of this mammoth character and played him for 5 films. No Time to Die is his last outing as Bond. The films portrayed Bond very differently from the books. The film Bond is a little more arrogant, confident, and has certain swagger. Popular beyond measure, the films took Bond to a very obscure corner of planet Earth and morphed him into a character that was larger than life. Men wanted to be him, and women wanted to be quoted by him. The film showcased Bond as someone who wore a tuxedo as a second skin, could dangle off the side of high rises with surprising ease, and yes, kill without batting an eyelid. Bond is often aided in his efforts by the choices of gadgets. A pen that can double up as poison dispenser or a knife or even a camera. Oftentimes all in one. Bond's life choices: he drinks a vodka martini which is second not stirred, and he drives an Aston Martini. All this is now part of the public domain. While the British detective mystery solver had always had a place of pride, Bond took it another level. Even the side characters in the films like Moneypen, Bond's secretary, and M, the head of Secret Intelligence Service, are part of public memory. Today, the name James Bond is synonymous with a super spy in any corner of the world. The actors who have essayed Bond have been worshipped by film lovers, and even the music of the films have garnered awards right from Academy to Grammy. Bond girls. Mostly the films are about Bond and his sheer bravado and quick thinking that always involves saving some part of the planet. But one must remember the Bond girls. The books have the Bond girls defined to the T. They all conform to the standards of beauty and are almost a decade younger than Bond. And they are often reduced to play the love interest of Bond. The books often named the Bond girls with sexually suggestive names. The films at times change the brief of the Bond girls. There are several tropes they adhere to. Some are just his token love sex interests, while some assist him on his mission. Some are sacrificial lambs who inevitably end up dying in the course of the film at the hands of the villain. And then there are femme fatales who are or a mission to kill Bond. But in a post-Me Too world, there has been ample criticism of the Bond girl phenomenon and the blatant sexualization and objectification of them. Future of James Bond. There are speculations of galore as to who will fill the giant shoes of Daniel Craig. Names of actors like Idris Elba, Reggie Jean Page, and Tom Hardy have been doing the rounds, but nothing has stuck so far. There are calls for having a black James Bond, and some have even floated the idea of a female James Bond, but again nothing has been confirmed. The producers of the Bond franchise have said that they would only float a new idea of the Bond after the dust has settled on the Daniel Craig era. Thank you.